Hi guys, how are you all? This is FJ What If? Today we are going to discuss about what if Naruto was Madara's student part 5. Before start the episode, please like and subscribe my channel. Chapter 5. Hunt. Pain was staring over a Megacure. He silently hoped that Ryu would keep Conan safe, his last friend. And if not, he would face the wrath of God. Though the strange thing that bothered the Akatsuki leader was Yosuke himself. He had never heard of the man before nor any inkling of his existence. He just fell out of the sky. No one knows anything about him, and Zetsu claimed that he would be a valuable asset to the organization. Nagato just hoped he was right. He also hoped that Ryu was able to kill Orochimaru. The traitor to the Akatsuki who took joy and euphoria for meddling with their plans could still be alive, or he would be 6ft in the ground. Also, how did Ryu possess the Sharingan? All the Uchiha corpses left over from the massacre were destroyed so that no one would get the precious Keki Genkai. He knew what happened when someone outside of the Uchiha clan transplanted Sharingan. Kakashi Hatake is the prime example. So is Ryu an Uchiha? Or is he a copycat? From behind Pain a swirling distortion appeared. And out came a orange spiral mask with a single eye hole, black spiky hair and a Akatsuki cloak. So you have found a new member, I hear, said the man with the orange mask. His name is Ryu Yosuke, a very powerful youth whom we might thank for the supposed death of Orochimaru, said Nagato without turning towards the visitor. He might have been able to kill Orochimaru. That is quite impressive. Not many people can match the Snake Sannin, praised the masked man. I heard he has the Sharingan. Is this true, Nagato? Spoke the man. Pain scowled at the man to whom he was working with. Yes, although I am not sure if he is an Uchiha or not, you may talk to him when he arrives in the Land of Water with his partner Conan, informed Nagato. Very good, maybe in her presence the first meeting won't be as awkward or catastrophic as I assumed, said the man. Until we meet again, good day, Nagato. The man in the mask disappeared within a whirling vortex, leaving no trace that he was in the room. The masked man reappeared within a strange dimension surrounded by white cubes. Impossible, could this person be a survivor of the massacre? No, Itachi and I killed everyone, even the children except for Sasuke, and it can't be him. He's not strong enough to join the Akatsuki, and he would never join as long as Itachi is among the organization, frantically thought the masked man. But still, this can still present an opportunity I have been waiting for, another lieutenant alongside Kasami, someone who can help create the weapon forged from the Bijuu's chakra, spoke the man within in his mind. Though I'm going to have to learn all I can about Yosuke, what makes him tick like clockwork, any family, goals, ambitions. I need to learn everything there is to know about Ryu Yosuke, then this world will finally know pain and hatred. Elsewhere in the Land of Water, two cloaked figures were walking the road towards Kirigakure. They wore black cloaks emblazoned with red clouds, and they wore conical straw hats with bangles flapping around. Their cloaks' high collars along with their hats obscured most of their faces except their eyes. One was a royal honey color while the other was blood red with 3 concentric tumies surrounding the pupil. At the moment they were having a friendly argument. Are you sure we're going the right direction? Asked the larger of the two. He tilted his hat with his hand showcasing his Keki Genkai, the Sharingan to the entire world. Yes, answered his partner blankly, whose voice sounded like a woman's. We should be nearing Kirigakure within a few hours. However, stated the other person, it will be nightfall soon and the mist will be akin to a maze. We should rest for the night before we see the Mizukage tomorrow. The other wanderer nodded at her partner's reasoning. They weren't going to make the same mistake as last time they went off wandering. They brought tents and sleeping bags, also food this time. They both took out a scroll from within their cloaks and unsealed whatever was in there. 2 tents poofed into existence. The larger companion went off to collect firewood, while the other went fishing by a nearby lake. 2 hours later both returned to the campsite, one with wood while the other fish. They created a campfire and the large one lit the fire using his own chakra. And they cooked the fish for dinner. After they were done with their surprisingly delicious fish, both went to rest for they were unaware with what the Mizukage wanted. Speaking of the Mizukage, Mei Terumi, the Godame, was signing off on the cage's greatest enemy. Paperwork. Create a rebellion, they said. It'll be fun, they said. No one told me about all this god-awful paperwork that came with the job. If I knew it involved paper, I would have gotten on the first boat to Kumo, thought the Mizukage sadly. She then heard voices from outside her office door. One was a rather distinctive voice that carried itself in a stoic yet noble way. and in walked her two favorite shinobi, Ao and Chujiro. Ao, Chujiro, has there been any news or sightings of the organization we contracted? Asked Mei in her business mode. Why yes and no Mizukage-sama, answered Chujiro. Mei raised her left eyebrow at the young swordsman. Youth these days, what he means is Mizukage-sama is that we have no sightings on the two men we contracted, but we have picked up their presences in the land of water, responded Ao. However, what the Mizukage heard was an entirely different thing. No sightings on men, repeated the Mizukage. Shall we arrange to meet with these two gentlemen? Asked Ao. But the Mizukage heard differently again. Arranged with gentlemen, as in to be married, thought Mei. Ao, taking my silence as a yes, decided to keep on talking. Well, to be honest, I would rather prefer later rather than sooner. I just don't trust the youths these days always. Then Ao continued jabbering on about youth, and Chujiro was being his shy self. Get married later than sooner. You don't have any youth. She continued to misinterpret her subordinate when he said something else. All hearts are voided things anyway. Finished Ao about his sentence. We will never know. Marriage. Hearts are voided. That being the last thing that out the nail in the coffin. The Mizukage got out of her desk with a dark look in her eye and walked up to Ao and whispered in his ear while smiling. Shut up or I'll kill you. Ao seemed like he had just seen the devil, and his face went ghost white, and his mind was blank. Hopefully he would take that threat to heart. Naruto woke up in the dead of night. Another nightmare had haunted him. It was like this ever since he joined Madara as his student. He would wake up once a week to a new nightmare or a repurposed old one. Since they never seemed to go away, Naruto instead called them night terrors. But he never woke up kicking or screaming. He would wake up silently, no sweat on his brow. He wouldn't talk because he knew there would be no point. He didn't need consoling, it was pathetic to him and pitiful in every word. Another one, whispered Naruto in the wind. His new night terror was oddly different from the rest. He left his tent and his Akatsuki cloak behind, opting to wear his armor and hooded coat. He was now standing outside his camp looking up at the bright stars. They say light can be found within the darkest places, breathed Naruto. Such a idiotic notion. The night is the perfect example of this. Despite how dark and black the night is, there are always lights dotting its sky, but to crush those small lights in the sky, you require more darkness to smother those lights. So long as one spark remains, the dark places of this world can never truly reign. Isn't that right, Zetsu? Zetsu appeared in front of Naruto. Only its Venus fly trap was visible. But it opened up to reveal the black and white halves of Zetsu. You're quite the philosopher, Naruto, complimented the white half. If I didn't become a shinobi, a philosopher is not something I have the time nor the patience to become, bit back Naruto while staring at the sky. You ordered me here for a reason, asked the black half, partially annoyed. After leaving Ame, Naruto secretly ordered Zetsu to meet with him, though for what reason the artificial human was not aware of. The Yondai Mizukage, answered Naruto. Both halves of Zetsu were confused. Why was Naruto interested in a dead cage? So you called us here just to talk about the Yondai Mizukage? Said Zetsu. Yes, replied Naruto, still staring at the stars. There was a light breeze that rustled Naruto's blue rope belt and coat. When I was ordered to head to Kirigakure, something popped up within my mind regarding the village. Zetsu was listening intently, while the white half was, but the black half was bored. A few years ago, I met a rogue Kiri shinobi who was a former swordsman of the mist, Zabuza Momoki. Naruto then thought back to when he met Zabuza years ago. I later learned that he tried to assassinate the Yondai Mizukage, but fled the village when he failed, and he also told me how he butchered an entire class of aspiring ninja single-handedly when he was boy. I later researched the Yondai Mizukage and his tyrannical rule of the village, continued Naruto. Everyone in the shinobi world knows of Yagura the Sanbi Jinchuriki, who also became a kage. But not everyone knows about Yagura before he became a kage. Now Zetsu's interest was piqued. Shortly after I arrived in the land of water, I created a kage bunchen to research the Yondaime in one of the local libraries. Yagura, despite being mistrusted in the village, had apparently a heart of gold. He was kind, friendly and driven. So what happened to him? Asked Zetsu. From all the history that I have read about Yagura before he was the Mizukage, painted a picture of someone who could do no wrong and radiated like the sun, who could instill loyalty in every heart and bring hope to the despaired, said Naruto. But that all changed when he became the Mizukage, spoke Naruto. His entire psyche did a complete turnaround. He became violent, cruel, and his brutal way of leading the village enforced its bloody mistitle. Continued Naruto. He executed anyone who stood in his way or who rebelled against him. He made terror his weapon, and he was deceitful. When he changed the views of his village against the bloodline users, many feared him and respected him, but his acts of oppression didn't stop there. He held public shows of bloodline users being tortured and killed, even children. But one thing leads me to believe one thing, proclaimed Naruto. Someone like Yagura going from happy and gentle to cruel and cold doesn't happen overnight. I'm not a psychologist, but I know a case like Yagura's doesn't happen like that, ever. Said Naruto. So you believe that? Uttered Zetsu. Yagura was being manipulated by Genjutsu. Said Naruto. But how? As you said, Yagura is a Jinchuriki and Genjutsu doesn't work on Jinchuriki, who have control of their Biju. Voiced Zetsu. I'm not talking about ordinary Genjutsu, but yes, Genjutsu doesn't work on Jinchuriki, who have control of their beasts, however for someone with the Sharingan. Muttered Naruto. You don't mean? Whispered Zetsu. Exactly, the fake Madara was controlling Yagura and plotted the annihilation of the bloodlines and weakening Kirigakure. Declared Naruto, who was now facing Zetsu. I see, the Sharingan is one of two Keki Genkai that can control Biju, but you must have extensively powerful eyes to control a Biju in the first place, and if he restrained the beast with his eyes, he could control the jailer easily. Exclaimed Zetsu. Precisely, the copycat was here in the land of water controlling the Yondai Mizukage. Said Naruto as he narrowed his eyes. We can use this opportunity to find Obito's location and eliminate him before he ruins my plans or breaks my pawns. Zetsu, go to Kirigakure and find out as much information about the Yondaime, the Bloodline Purges, the Kiri no Shinobigata no Shishin Shu, 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, the Sanbi, and any history the mist has with the Uchiha clan or anything connected to the Uchiha clan. The hunt begins. Proclaimed Naruto. Nodding to his master, Zetsu disappeared within the ground and headed to Kirigakure to complete his objectives. Naruto was alone in his thoughts. It's an ingenious way of weakening a ninja village. Taking control of the leader who is well respected and strong would allow Obito to control the village with fear or respect. He knew that he couldn't just execute everyone in the village just to weaken it. Even a cage is no match for an entire village of shinobi. Instead, he opted to erase a large part of the military strength in the mist by ridding itself of its Keki Genkai, such as the Hyotan, Ice Release, and also the reason why I had Zetsu look into the swordsmen was to see if any were his pawns, such as Kasami Hoshigaki, who I believe is in league with Obito because he supported Yagura during his reign as Mizukage. But still, why Kirigakure in the first place? If I was in Obito's place, I'd weaken Kanagakure instead, so which leads me to suggest that Kiri had something to do in Obito's life after his death. Knowledge is one of the branches of power. If you understand your enemy as you understand yourself, then taking his life will be as easy as taking yours. Thought Naruto as he remembered one of the lessons Madara taught him. Neither the student nor the subordinate noticed the shadow that was watching them. A shadow with blue hair and amber eyes. Orochimaru was stewing within his chamber contemplating killing Ryuyoke's or taking his Sharingan. He had underestimated the Akatsuki and that cost him greatly. But the black fire and the skeletal warrior were jutsu he had never seen before. Also, that wine dragon jutsu was no pushover either. The door to his chamber opened up to reveal his apprentice Sasuke Uchiha. Hello, Sasuke-kun. Drawled Orochimaru. Sasuke didn't do anything other than stare at his master. I require more training if I am going to kill Itachi, Orochimaru. Orochimaru smirked at the youngest Uchiha. After my recent fight with a member of the Akatsuki has shown me I'm not ready to minus, but he was stopped when Orochimaru silenced him with his hand. Sasuke-kun, when are you going to stop hiding it from? Sasuke narrowed his eyes at the Sannin. What do you mean? Questioned Sasuke, but he had an idea of what the snake was asking. What I mean is, when are you going to let me in on the secret of you having the Mangekyo Sharingan? Spoke Orochimaru. Sasuke widened his eyes in fear and surprise. And I don't understand why you didn't use it against our dear friend from the Akatsuki, Ryu? Said Orochimaru. Silence was all there was between the two of them, but seeing as how Orochimaru already knows, he should answer him. I know that the Mangekyo causes me to lose vision in my eyes. When I tested one of its jutsu, and from that lesson I am saving my Mangekyo for Itachi. Answered Sasuke. Orochimaru's smirk was still there and he was a little disappointed that he never knew of the eye's weakness. Nodding at his apprentice, Orochimaru agreed with him. If he had the Mangekyo he would save for stronger opponents. They both got up and went to the training ground within the base. Sasuke's humiliating defeat would only strengthen him until he faced Itachi. A fully clad man in black armor was standing in a burning forest. He was unafraid of the whipping flames and the torturous heat. He was seemingly happy at all the devastation that was wreaked within the forest. He wanted to watch the world burn like the fire, burning the trees and create a new one where no impurities were occupying it. The world he lives in is an imperfect one. Hatred and fear had literally devoured the world, nations mistrusted one another, and enemies killed innocents out of paranoia and fear. The world he would create would have none of that, no war, no fear, no pain. Those would be absolute in his world. The black-clad man pulled down his hood revealing his golden spiky locks. His Sharingan was searching over the desolation. His face was expressionless and his thoughts were empty. The wind amongst the flames were strong and unsharp, the breeze effortlessly cutting his face, but he felt no pain nor did he flinch. He then heard a voice off in the distance. A familiar voice that recognized. He strode towards the location the voice was coming from. With each step he took, ash would cover his clawed boots, however it seemed like the ash moved on, its own taking the forms and faces of people he once knew, whispering his name. There was an feral-looking boy, with a puppy, a masked ninja, 2 children with white eyes, an old man wearing a hat with a kanji for fire on it, a chubby boy with swirls on his cheeks, a pink-haired girl, a shark-like man, the list went on. He kept walking ignoring the ash-like apparitions. Their whispers were like teeth against his ear, their claws were grasping his spine, their breath was clouding his sight and their eyes were penetrating his thoughts. In one last effort to have the samurai-like man listen to them, they tried grasping his body so that he would hear what they had to say. However, the moment their hands came in contact with his body they dissipated into ash and fell to the ground. One by one out of the corners of his eyes the blond man saw the ghosts collapsing into ash. But his steely gaze was focused on one thing, the path ahead of him. The fires that were burning the forest was still scorching the trees but not destroying them. He looked up into the sky and beheld no sun nor the moon, only the great clouds that matched the color of the ash on the ground. He finally exited the searing forest and beheld a gray, barren wasteland devoid of life. There were no mountains, no rocks or vegetation, just the gray, flat ground. He continued walking onwards towards his destination. For what felt like hours was only minutes to the blond man. He kept walking to where he would finally stop. Then he found it. A spiky-haired blond boy wearing an orange jumpsuit sitting on the ground peering into a puddle of gray, dirty water. He was holding a necklace in his hands that had a green gem and accessories on it. When the red-eyed man looked at the boy, he could see fresh tear streaks and dead-looking eyes. He trailed the edges of the gray puddle, so that he was standing in front of the boy. He sat down opposite the kid. He had only noticed that his eyes were red and puffy and his entire body looked lifeless and deprived of color. He too stared into the puddle, but there was no reflection. He looked back up at the boy to see him staring at him with his dull blue eyes. "You were once like me," said the boy wearily. He fiddled with necklace in his hand, almost like playing with it. The blond man just stared at the boy with a calculating gaze. Was he threat? Or a messenger? "I was never like you," spat the man. He already hated this kid and he only spoke 5 words to him. "No, you were different once, less than what you are now," stated the boy. The man narrowed his eyes at the kid in orange. "What a stupid color. You don't know me, so don't think you do," snarled the man. This kid was getting on his nerves. "I know you better than you know yourself," said the kid matter-of-factly. "You were once happy, you were always happy, no matter the situation, no matter how much pain was thrown at you, you always smiled that you knew things would get better in your life. I miss that smile," said the boy sadly. The man clenched his fist. This rat was claiming he knew him better than anyone. What a foolish thing to say. "Look into the pool," said the boy. Ultimately deciding to swallow his pride, the man gazed into the puddle. It was black and dirty and nothing was visible. "What am I supposed to see in this?" grunted the man as he gestured at the puddle. "Just keep looking and then, you will see," said the boy. Complying, the man looked into the pool. At first all he saw was dirty water, but the image began to change and swirl around. An image of the man appeared wearing a Konoha headband, being thanked and praised by the people around him, which he was able to tell that they were Konoha citizens. The images themselves looked like they were sketched by an artist. Then the image shifted to a different picture. He saw himself having fun with his friends at a bar, celebrating his birthday and showering him with precious gifts. Having an awesome party. The man narrowed his eyes at the pool. What did this mean? The painting changed again to him, wearing white and red robes, along with a blonde-haired woman with a big bust laying a red hat with the kanji for fire on his head. And he turned and faced the crowd where he was met with thunderous applause. The final image showed him holding something. There was also a pink-haired woman with emerald eyes standing next to him. This image most of all confused him the most. What were these images and what did they mean? The thing he was holding was none other than a baby, a blonde-haired baby with emerald eyes. Both the blonde man and the pink-haired woman were smiling the most beautiful smiles anyone could see. The image changed to both parents teaching their infant how to walk and feeding him, but they both had the exact same smile, and the baby was happily laughing with its parents. Somehow this picture made him empty, bitter and melancholy. What was this supposed to mean? These pictures were confusing him to no end. What do these images mean? And who is that man in the painting? Asked the black-clad man mournfully. His eyes never left the baby. Just how much sway did one tiny being have over him? They are missed opportunities, answered the young boy. What? Bit back the man. If you hadn't stayed with that man, this is what would have happened instead of what you are today, answered the boy pensively. Still staring at the baby, the man was disgusted by what he saw. He channeled a large amount of chakra into his right eye, activating his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. The scythe-like shuriken pattern appeared, and with it, black flames out at the dirty pool of water, burning it. His eyes never left the small child until the flames burned away the water. He turned his sight back to the boy. There is nothing in my heart but hatred, said the man. He got up from his sitting position, and so did the boy. They were now standing before each other. Who are you? Growled the man. He was clenching his fist and lightly gritting his teeth. Angry is not the correct word to describe him at the moment. I was you, answered the child. The man's eyes still had that steely gaze. The child held out his hand and placed the necklace into his counterpart's right hand. I miss that smile, said the boy. The man tightened his fist, clenching the necklace. His left hand reached over his shoulder and unsheathed the katana on his back, and in one swift motion killed the boy with a diagonal slash. Blood instantly exploded from the horrendous gash on the child's chest, and the blood splayed the man's face and bloodied his hair. The boy's blood flowed from his body, staining the ground, becoming a large puddle of red. I was never and will never be like you, said the man. Naruto jolted from his sleep with sweat pouring down his forehead. What was that? Questioned Naruto. It apparently was another of his nightmares. However, it was the same nightmare he had experienced the night before. Everything concerning his dreams was confusing him. That was something else entirely. What did it mean? Why me? Were only some of the questions running through his mind? The blonde had never experienced such a dream before. It felt real. He was the one that gripped the sword, and he also heard the whispering against his ear, as if someone was actually telling him in person. His face was in his hands and he was breathing more calmly. He was put through the worst kind of torture by the old goat, so for something to affect him like this was indeed something, and he also believed that a simple dream made him like this, then it was truly pitiful and it made him feel weak. And if there was one thing he hated, it was feeling weak. Deciding to get ready to move and begin their travel to Kirigakure, Naruto got dressed into his black armor and black tattered coat. He pulled the Akatsuki cloak over his body and strapped his katana sheath across his back. He exited his tent and beheld his campsite that he shared with Conan. The campfire was doused long ago, and they had rid themselves of the leftovers of their food. Naruto turned back to his tent and took out a scroll, went through a couple of hand seals and slammed his palm onto the scroll. He sealed the tent into the scrolls and bound the scroll with some twine. He looked over his shoulder and stared at Conan's tent. He wondered if she was awake or was she not inside the tent at all. Remembering all the beatings he got from women years ago, Naruto decided to use caution. Despite being powerful, he knew that nothing was more fearsome than a pissed-off woman. He said just loud enough to hear. But he received no answer. He said her name again, but was met with the same result. Being smart, he created a cage bunchen and his clone opened the tent for him. The clone peered inside the tent, but was met with nothing but an empty living quarters. The clone poofed out of existence and the memories went back to Naruto. Where could she be? Given that her tent is still here, she must be nearby, deduced Naruto. Slipping back into his Ryu persona, he went to look for Conan. A few minutes of searching through the forest. Ryu found the same lake where Conan went fishing for their food. But instead of finding a fish, he found his beautiful partner, naked and bathing. Her back was facing him and she had yet to notice his presence. Naruto had a large blush on his cheeks. Beneath that cloak she had a killer body that most women would kill for. Naruto also got a good look at her. Deciding to not suffer a beating from someone who he suspected was a powerful woman, Naruto decided to leave before he was caught. "I know you're there," stated Conan emotionlessly. Naruto knew he was in trouble, but didn't show it. He never showed fear. It was letting your enemies know one of your weaknesses, and it was a weakness he despised, but he didn't mind taking advantage of the fears of others. "How did you know?" asked Ryu. He didn't make a sound, nor did she see him, so how did she? He was there in the first place. Was she a censor? Wasn't masking his chakra signature? "I didn't." "Well, not until you spoke up." Naruto face vaulted at her answer. She never knew he was there, so he actually just revealed himself to her. "You're quite devious," complimented Ryu. Given how she just made a fool of him, he deduced that she was what he stated. "Thank you. Now if you please, I like to bathe in private," said Conan unemotionally. Naruto turned on heel and left, not before saying to meet him back at the camp. Naruto was waiting for his blue-haired partner in their camp. He had been 15 minutes since he left Conan, and he was currently wondering why women take so long when they were bathing. It was one of the unsolved mysteries of the world. Zetsu then appeared from the ground in his usual manner. "Have you found anything from your search?" questioned Naruto. "Yes, and you were correct," said Zetsu. Naruto raised his eyebrow. "Wouldn't more details and explanations be useful?" "Which part?" spoke Naruto. "That the Yondaime was being controlled," said the white half. "In a report written by an Oinin who had a transplanted Bakugan, Yagura was indeed being controlled by Genjutsu, and that the puppet master supposedly had the Sharingan." Naruto smirked. He was always right. "I have more information regarding the Swordsman of the Mist," said the black half. Apparently one of the swordsmen, Fugyuki Suikazan, was selling his village's secrets and aided the bloodline rebels until his death, but it was Kasami Hoshigaki who killed him and was later approached by the Yondaime, applauding him for his devotion and duty. If Kasami was approached by Yagura, then I can only assume that he's one of Obito's lieutenants, and if so, then he may have an idea where the fake is, contemplated Naruto. However, it had been years since the Yondaime's death, and so Kasami may be a loyal follower, and if so, it will be harder to recruit. "I was unable to find any information that was connected between the bloodline purges and the fake Madara other than Obito tried to weaken the village," said White Zetsu. "Were you able to find anything linking Kiri and the Uchiha clan along with the Sanbi?" asked Naruto emotionlessly as usual. "That is the most interesting thing we have to say," said Zetsu. Now Naruto's attention was piqued. On a mission during the Third Shinobi World War, one of Obito's teammates was captured by Kiri and turned into the Sanbi Jinchuriki. They were supposed to utilize a plan where they would release the Sanbi in the middle of Konohagakure, where the Biju would destroy the village. However, they were followed by Oinin, who were to release the Three Tails, but Kakashi discovered their presence and they fled. Rin Nohara, which was the Jinchuriki's name, was later killed by Kakashi Hatake and the Sanbi's chakra was dispersed, but when Kiri tried to recover their possession, they found all the Oinin and the body of Rin on the ground, drenched within a sea of blood created by trees that were decorated with corpses. "No wonder Obito wanted to weaken Kiri," mused Naruto. "Thank you, Zetsu, for all this knowledge. The predator is now closer to the prey," smirked Naruto. But Zetsu was a little taken back by that smirk. It wasn't his usual annoying smirk. No, this was a bloodthirsty and deathly smirk, one that promised pain. "Conan should be returning soon, so you better leave," suggested Naruto as he regained composure of himself. "Do you want to spend time with your girlfriend Naruto?" White Zetsu for some reason got even whiter at the gaze he was receiving from Naruto's Sharingan. "Zetsu," said Naruto. "Yes," answered White Zetsu wearily. "How do you picture your death?" asked Naruto as if he was asking for the time of day. Zetsu didn't answer. He was too afraid, or he didn't want to piss Naruto off more. "Do you want me to choose your death for you?" With every word, White Zetsu's fortitude was breaking. "I can think of a few ways for you to die." With that, Zetsu disappeared. Naruto smirked. It worked every time whenever he would say that sentence. Conan returned a few minutes later. They packed their equipment and restarted their journey to Kiri. At the gates to Kirigakure, Ao was waiting patiently for the arrival of the Akatsuki. The problems they were facing in Kirigakure required high-level shinobi and they were short-handed on high-level shinobi. "I see them coming," shouted a Kirinin, who held binoculars in his hand. Ao pointed to a random shinobi. "You go and inform the Mizukage," commanded Ao. The shinobi quivered a little and sped off towards the Mizuki's office. Ao activated his Byakugan and observed the incoming shinobi. But he was able to get a few of their chakra. The first on had the chakra levels of a low to mid-kage, which slightly surprised him, but he soon remembered that the Akatsuki were S-rank shinobi, for a reason. But it was the second one that scared him a little. The second Akatsuki had gargantuan chakra levels even surpassing those of a kage, maybe, even a biju. Ao had heard of shinobi who had chakra levels that rivaled a biju, such as the Yondaime Reikage and Kasami Hoshigaki, the Kirigakure no Kajin, monster of the hidden mist, but this chakra unnerved him a bit. It was bright like the sun radiating on a field of grass, but cold like a remorseless winter. Just by looking at his chakra, Ao could claim that his blood was freezing in his arteries. Who was this member of the Akatsuki? Ryu and Konan were nearing the gates of Kirigakure. Konan was deep in thought and her body was on autopilot. Why would Zetsu be meeting with Ryu? The events from a few nights ago intrigued her, and who is this Obito Uchiha? Who is Ryu Yokaze? And why were they talking about the Yondaime Mizukage? And the fact that the cage was being controlled astounded her, and how did this involve Kasami and the other ninja swordsmen? Konan was broken from her thoughts when she and Ryu were greeted by a Kirinin with an eye patch. "Welcome to the village hidden in the mist. I'm Ao. Mizukage-sama had instructed me to guide to escort you to her office, but be warned, try anything funny in our village and we'll put you down," said Ao sternly. Apparently he didn't trust the Akatsuki. "You have nothing to fear as long as your village is contracting the Akatsuki and pay us in the end, there will be no trouble," replied Konan stoically. Ao nodded but still kept his eye on the other Akatsuki. "You will have to remove your hats when meeting with the Mizukage," said Ao. Both parties walked the rest of the way towards the Mizukage Tower. As Naruto was walking around the village, he scrutinized all the architecture and stores that he passed by. Kiri was different from Konoha. For one, the towers and buildings were cylindrical and there was mist. Lots of mist. When they arrived at the Mizukage Tower, Naruto had a sense of déjà vu. The tower was eerily similar to the Hokage Tower that he remembered. They entered the tower and climbed up the steps leading to the office. Mei Terumi was sitting in her office doing paperwork. She heard a knock at her door and signaled enter. Ao came in along with two cloaked figures, wearing black cloaks with red clouds, and they wore conical straw hats. "If you could please remove your hats, I would like to see the faces of the people I have contracted," asked Mei sweetly. Naruto and Konan did what she asked. Mei scanned the two shinobi in front of her. Wait, a shinobi and kunoichi. She scanned the kunoichi first and she had to compliment her beauty. She could rival her as well as Tsunade. But it was the shinobi to the kunoichi's left that made her breathless. He was rather tall and his face was well narrowed. He had roundish eyes that were slightly narrow. He had chin-length strands of hair that framed the sides of his face and a few strands fell in between his eyes and parted at his nose with a low ponytail that fell between his shoulder blades. But she never expected to see such a hair color. It was a golden yellow, but he had a pair of Sharingan in his eyes. All in all, this man was a god of beauty. Mei had to force her blush down in order to think coherently. "Welcome to Kirigakure," welcomed Mei softly, never taking her eyes off Ryu. "Thank you for your hospitality, Mizukage-sama. I'm Konan and this is my partner Ryu Yokaze." Before Konan could continue her sentence, a gasp was heard from within the room. Everyone turned their eyes towards Ao, who was shivering a little and biting his lip to prevent him from talking further. But when he looked into Ryu's Sharingan, did his teeth start chattering, and he was shaking even more. If he was honest, he was afraid of those eyes after all his encounters with Shisu Uchiha. But it was Naruto's that frightened him. There was something dark about them. Naruto made no move other than turning his head, and Ao was staring into those deep crimson. Ao could have sworn that the world darkened and that a shadow appeared behind Ryu, but before he was able to investigate the shadow, Ao was knocked to his senses by Mei asking him to politely leave. With that, Ao power walked hastily out of the office, not even sparing a glance. "Please forgive that intrusion, would you please continue, Konan-san?" said Mei in her business tone. If Ao tried something that was interrupting her business, then she would melt him. "Thank Mizukage-sama. As I said, I'm Konan and this is Ryu Yokaze. We were the ones assigned to any missions that Kirigakure or the Land of Water has," spoke Konan neutrally. Ryu wasn't listening because he was watching the door that Ao left through. So it seems that the Koro Rya's Black Dragon reputation reaches here in the Land of Water as well. Interesting, I didn't know defeating Kakashi would garner such fame, thought Naruto. Ryu turned his attention back to Mei, who was still discussing with Conan. Now is your first mission that require your talents. There have been reports of Taki shinobi within the Land of Water. Several of our shinobi have engaged them within the last 2 weeks and there have been casualties, but they always move locations, and they have great skill with evading our Oinin, who are the best within the elemental nations. I require you two to go and wipe out the Taki ninja, said Mei. Anything else? Questioned Conan. Yes, if you could be able to bring one back alive, that will be appreciated, so we could gain intel for their motives, and there will be extra cash on the side, but that in itself is an optional objective. You just have to kill the rest of them. And also there have been reports of a few Iwa shinobi among them, but they are just rumors at the moment, but sometimes rumors tend to be true, said Mei. Both Akatsuki members left the village. This will be difficult, said Ryu, gaining Kanen's attention. How so? Asked the blue-haired woman. The Land of Water is a large collective of islands, and right now we are the largest island. Splitting up is not the most appropriate decision, said Naruto. So instead of splitting up, we split ourselves. Conan was now confused, and what did he mean? Naruto made a unique cross sign and shouted out the name of a powerful jutsu, his oldest and fondest jutsu, Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. And immediately 1,000 Ryas were found all around them. Conan, understanding what he meant and getting over her amazement over so many clones, thought the name of her jutsu, Shikigami no Mai. Conan then her entire body starting unfolding into numerous sheets of paper. They then folded into butterflies and started flying around the Naruto clones. Have one of your butterflies stay here with me, and have one butterfly partnered up with a clone where they will spread out and look for the teams of Taki shinobi, ordered Ryu, which Conan had nothing to complain about, since it was an ingenious plan. When one of the clones finds the campsites, it will disperse and the intel will come back to me, and then we kill the foreign ninja when we meet up again. Each Naruto then activated their invisibility jutsu, and each clone and paper butterfly went on their own way. An hour later, Naruto was meditating in the exact same spot where he created his own army, waiting for one of his clones to disperse. Each of Kanen's paper butterflies was sitting on each clone's shoulders, also waiting patiently. Not long passed and Naruto felt the memories of 3 of his copies dispersing. Found the campsites. They on the southwest island from the center one. There are 3 camps, one to the southwest, one to the southeast, and one to the north in an evenly spaced triangle. I will take the southwest camp and you take the southeast. We will meet up at the northern camp when we have dealt with both, said Naruto. Ryu activated his invisibility jutsu and Kanen's paper butterflies flew to the southeast. It took a few hours of traveling on Naruto's part. He would have gotten there faster if he had learned the Hiration, but it was one difficult jutsu. The mechanics behind it were hard, even for a seal master, such as Naruto. But what he had studied from the jutsu scrolls is that the Hiration was a space-time ninjutsu and fuinjutsu mixed in one. Naruto had yet finished understanding the basics of the jutsu, sharing with us all that the teleportation jutsu was a masterpiece of the shinobi arts. By now Naruto was nearing his assigned campsite. Since the blood transfusion Madara gave him, Naruto was now a sensor, but he rarely used his abilities and instead sealed it off, like the seal the Hyuga clan use on their branch members. Naruto released the seal, keeping his sensor abilities at bay. The seal was located at the nape of his neck. He could now detect 23 chakra signatures in the camp. Some were small while others were fairly large, at least low jonin level. Deciding to take action, Naruto unsheathed his katana on his back and got ready to kill all the shinobi. He jumped into the middle of the camp and deactivated his invisibility. All the Taki ninjas who were milling about jumped at the sight of the stranger in the black cloak with red clouds. Deciding to make the first move, Naruto threw a kunai that penetrated a Taki nin's head. Instantly all the other shinobi were on guard. They charged all at once on Ryu. But 3 were instantly cut down by Naruto's sword. Seeing their dead comrades on the ground, some took a step back out of fear. At the corner of his eye, Naruto saw a shinobi tying what looked like a flare tag to a kunai. Choosing to let the shinobi fire off the flare, Naruto stood there waiting. He didn't care if more came, he needed to wipe out all these shinobi anyway. So a warm-up would be good before the rest arrived. The flare exploded in the sky, alerting any patrols that there was trouble at the camp. Ryu sealed his katana into his right hand and went through some hand seals. The other nin in the camp were waiting for what was to happen next. Futon, Uzumiku Rapungukama, wind release, billowing gale sides. shouted Naruto as two scythes made of wind appeared in his outstretched hands. He threw them at the shinobi and the scythes launched away from his hands, traveling and whirling around in a sphere, killing and maiming the shinobi that were unable to duck or get out of the way. The scythes dissipated and now only 7 shinobi were left. Rage fueling them at the sight of their compatriots lying in fleshy chunks on the ground, the ninja charged at the blonde, forgetting all their caution now replaced by anger. Naruto unsealed his katana on his right hand and blocked a punch with the flat of the blade, and he then took surprise of his opponent when he flipped the flat side and replaced it with the blade. He completely tore through his attacker's arm and then decapitated him with a swift flick of his wrist. He sidestepped a kunai slash and performed an uppercut with his katana on the shinobi. His neck had a large slash and it continued on to the base of his skull, where it sliced his head like a butcher, shanking a piece of meat. He grabbed the body in front of him and used it as a shield which blocked incoming kunai as they lodged themselves into the body. He tackled the ninja that threw the kunai with the body he was holding, and shoved his katana through the body's chest and it pierced the ninja's chest, who later died of blood loss. He heard the shout of a jutsu and small fireballs were racing towards him. He channeled chakra into his katana, where a wind aura appeared, and he cut every fireball aimed at him while briskly walking towards the ninja. But he didn't realize that the fireballs were a distraction, where a ninja was attempting to sneak up behind him and stab him in the back. Sensing the approaching ninja behind him, Ryu, in a marvelous show of agility, jumped into the air and performed a upside-down spin, dodging the fire, and while he was doing that, the fireballs were soaring towards the ninja, who was burned by the flames. The ninja that was creating the fireball stopped what he was doing. Naruto landed on the ground, swiftly sealed his katana and went through some hand seals. Reitan, Reiku Jabrin, lightning release, lightning javelin, shouted Ryu as from his hand a flickering spear of lightning shot towards the ninja where he was stabbed in the right lung. The lightning was numbing his body and he lost control of his right hand. Then Naruto yanked the lightning spear to his right, where it created a gruesome wound that appeared as if someone hacked the taki nin with a chainsaw. Naruto turned around and backhanded at another nin who attempted to stab him. Apparently this one didn't learn from his comrade's mistake. The shinobi rolled on the ground before coming to a stop with his face burying the ground, but he wasn't dead. The other ninja went through a multitude of hand seals before finishing his jutsu. Unfortunately for Naruto, the camp was near the ocean where the taki nin could draw the water from for his next attack. Sutan, Suiryuden no Jutsu, water release, water dragon bullet, yelled the nin as a huge water dragon appeared from the nearby ocean. It tore through any tree that were blocking its path from Ryu. Ryu, being smart, went through hand seals for a jutsu he was able to copy with his Sharingan when he was in Konoha. Doten, Noriaki, earth release, earth settle wall, yelled Naruto as a wall of earth rose up in front of him. But he noticed it lacked the bulldog heads and it was less chiseled. The water dragon hit the earth wall dead on. But since water was weak against earth, it did little to budge the wall. Naruto unsealed his katana and channeled lightning chakra into it, increasing its piercing damage and overall sharpness, but it wasn't as great as the wind chakra's penetration. He chucked his sword in the air and kicked it at the base of the hilt, where the katana traveled through the earth wall easily, and still kept its flight towards the taki nin, who didn't have enough time to move before his spine was drilled by the lightning sword. The other taki nin, who was trying to get up off the ground, tried to run away, but his attempt were futile as he felt himself being hefted into the air, was being held by the unknown assailant at his throat. "Please, I have a family, a child," choked the man as his throat was being squeezed by the man with the red eyes. "Please," begged the man. "I don't have what you have," said Ryu darkly. And with enough pressure crushed the nin's throat in a second. Naruto dumped the body on the ground and went to retrieve his katana. He approached the shinobi's body and put his foot on the chest as pressure and hefted his sword out of his chest, cleaned the blade and sheathed it in its holder. Now he was waiting for any patrols that might have been signaled when the kunai flare went off. He heard a voice behind him, and judging from the sound of it, the voice was definitely male. He turned around to face the voice, and it was a Iwa nin. The Iwa nin was surveying all the carnage. There were dead bodies everywhere he looked, and most of them were cut up into meaty chunks. Others were merely stabbed or slashed, but their blood was staining the ground. And in the center of all the desolation was a man wearing a black cloak with red clouds. But when he looked at the man's face, he froze. This guy looked like an exact replica of the Yondaime Hokage, whispered the man. "You're the Yondaime Hokage," said the Iwa nin as he pointed a finger at Naruto. Naruto's eyes changed into his eternal Mangekyo and a look of rage appeared on his face. The Iwa ninja didn't have time to blink when he found a hand in his chest holding his heart. The Iwa nin coughed up blood and his body was in pain, and there was a hand holding his heart. "If you're going to kill me, do it already, like how you murdered all the other Iwa shinobi that died valiantly," said the Iwa nin. But Naruto had his bloodthirsty smirk on his face. "Foolish. You believe that I'm the Yondaime Hokage?" said Naruto cockily. "I'm someone much worse. But how to kill you? Crushing your heart is too cliché. How about this?" Naruto then started channeling wind chakra into the palm of his hand, creating tiny wind blades. The Iwa shinobi started screaming in abject pain. The wind lacerating his heart was the worst feeling imaginable. All the slashes and cuts were too much for the ninja to resist, and he then felt his life slipping away. Within a few seconds the shinobi was dead, and Naruto unceremoniously dropped him on the ground. When Naruto glanced at his hand, it was flooded with blood. He grinned at the red liquid coating his hand. When he glimpsed at his handiwork, what he saw was a carved and slashed heart that was bleeding from every opening. Naruto didn't mind killing, he was unaffected by it. He didn't love it nor did he hate it, he was content with it. He sat on the dirty ground and began meditating, waiting for any other Taki or Iwa shinobi. He didn't have to wait long before he heard footsteps encroaching on his position. A large group of Taki nin along with some Iwa nin were now surrounding him. It didn't take a genius to figure out that he was responsible for all the deaths in the camp, and his arm was bloodied, showcasing that he killed someone. And painfully. "Come on, he's just one man, we can take him," yelled a Taki shinobi. "The Yondaime Hokage," yelled a Iwa shinobi. "Let's kill him and avenge our families," yelled another Iwa nin. Naruto got off the ground and dusted off his cloak. "You will never mention that man in front of me again," threatened Naruto, though none of the ninja took his threat seriously. They didn't know that he was right. "And you will never get the chance to." Naruto blazed through some hand seals ending on the dragon seal. Futon, Senhano Keisei Wind Release, formation of 1000 blades. And instantly a semi-sphere of wind needles surrounded him like a shield. And then the needles launched away from Naruto, impaling every ninja that was near him. Konan had just recently finished off the shinobi in her camp. There was about 20 of them. And halfway during the fight, a flare went off in the sky to the west, signaling any others nearby. Realizing that Ryu had something to do with the flare, Konan was relieved that some pressure was taken off her. But now she was standing amidst dead bodies of the Taki ninja. She wondered how Ryu was handling himself against the shinobi, but quickly told herself that there was nothing to worry about. She activated her signature paper, jutsu, and transformed into butterflies and headed for the northern camp. Ryu was stepping over the corpses that lay on the ground. That last jutsu couldn't be blocked or dodged even. Taking cover behind other things was useless because of the sharp wind blades. Penetrating abilities were so powerful that even earth walls were ineffective. The ninja on the ground didn't have time to scream before their lives left them. And their blood soiled the ground that Naruto was currently stepping on. He stepped on something while walking away. He looked down and noticed a picture of an Iwa nin whose body was not far away. It was a picture of the ninja with a woman whose hand was on a bulging belly, and they were smiling lovingly. What Naruto noticed is that the smiles were the exact same smiles he and the pink-haired woman had in his dream a few nights ago. He scowled at the image and kept walking to the camp. He had no sympathy for those who were in love. But love was one of the things he craved most in his past life, and maybe he could love someone like that family in the picture. Maybe. He was walking for some time while heading to the camp. That warm-up slaughter did him wonders. His body was refreshed and full of energy. He felt energized. He needed to dump a powerful jutsu, and soon. He finally made it to the camp, and he sensed Konan not far off. Konan was patiently waiting behind a tree not far off from the northern camp. Luckily there were no sensors, so no one had spotted her. She saw her blonde-haired partner in the corner of her eye. "Since you are here, I'm to believe that your assigned camp has been dealt with," said Konan to Ryu. "It sounds like you doubted me," stated Naruto neutrally. "I did," deadpanned Konan. Ryu's eye twitched. He disliked being doubted. It sounded like an insult to his abilities, or was she toying with him? "And I also assume that you let the flare go off." "I was doing my assigned mission while also having a bit of fun," spoke Ryu with a subtle smirk. "Fun?" inquired Konan. "In battle I have a very bad habit of holding my power back and making the fight more enjoyable for myself. I'm a censor, but I hold that talent back whenever fighting to give my opponents an advantage over me." said Ryu in barely hidden arrogance. You so sound very sure of yourself, and it's best not to allow your arrogance to cloud your mind. Bit back Conan. Not arrogance, confidence, replied Naruto. If a battle gets boring, I become serious and end the fighting before I die of boredom. You sound like a warmonger or battle master to me, who enjoys killing just to amuse himself, responded Conan. If you had been listening, you would have heard that I never said that I like killing, just combat itself, corrected Ryu. Conan slightly widened her eyes at Ryu but decided to stop the conversation and focus on their objective. We still have to deal with the last remnants of the Taki Nin, spoke Conan as she stared at the camp. We should at least try to keep one alive so the mist can interrogate him. Sure, I can keep one alive. In fact, I already have a jutsu that I wanted to test out, said Ryu with his signature smirk. Katan, Yori Kakuinchipo, fire release, flickering fire whipping tail, yelled Naruto as he spewed streams of fire towards the enemy camp. The fire was coiling around igniting shinobi, and the tents that housed them, and true to its name, it seemed like the fire was looping around like tails. Conan could hear the screams emanating from the shinobi. She had witnessed death multiple times, even at a young age, during the Second Shinobi World War, when she and her friends Nagato and Yahiko first met the Sannin, and she experienced a lot more death afterwards. She could see with her eyes that her blonde partner had also seen death with those emotionless eyes of his. I can sense a few who are still clinging to their wretched lives, spat Ryu. But Conan was able to pick up on the animosity he held, as if he didn't want them to suffer in their lives, but his face quickly fell back into his neutral appearance. Pick a Taki Nin to bring back to the village. I will go on ahead and report to the Mizukage of our mission's success. Ryu then began walking away, back to Kirigakure, leaving Conan, who was watching his back. She could feel sympathetic to him. He obviously had lost a loved one in his life like her. Naruto made it back to Kirigakure. He was rethinking of his dream nightmare, involving all the apparitions and the small boy in orange. He experienced the same dream earlier and they were exactly the same, but was he going crazy? Was all the stress from the Eye of the Moon plan getting to him? No, it wasn't a vision. He didn't believe in such things, but why was the boy claiming to be him? Was he talking about his psychological mask? That Naruto never existed, it was a fake. He was now truly himself. But all those visions, they made him melancholy. Why? He knew that those visions would never happen. He would always be hated if it was for being the Kyabi container or for something out of his control. It wouldn't matter if the village knew he was the Yondaime son. In his past life, he was a sheep in a world of dogs, but no, he's a wolf. Especially the images with the pink-haired woman and the baby. Their love for such a tiny being. The concept of love to him, love was an illusion. Nothing could justify love. Could you see love? Could it be used as a weapon? He didn't know the feeling of love, or at least he thought he knew. Like the Sandaime and Iruka. No, they loved him out of pity. But even now he hoped one day to love someone as they love him, to just give him a chance. The Sandaime probably thought he was a bane to his existence, and if his tool broke from all the hatred from the villagers, then his village would lose a valuable weapon. Most villages don't care about their Jinchuriki, so why would he? And Iruka, why would he bond with the thing that murdered his parents? He was one of those people who hated him, with those eyes. But the eyes he would give people would be like windows, both seeing through and nothing at the same time, depending on what was on the other side. His body was on autopilot, and he was climbing up a staircase, but he didn't notice the pair of soft mounds collide and smother his face. You know, I was slightly disappointed that you never looked at me when we met in my office, said a sultry voice. But if I knew I needed my greatest assets then, I would have used them on such a handsome man sooner. Naruto looked up from his position between the perky globes to see the gorgeous face of the Mizukage smiling down on him. Recovering quickly, Naruto detached himself from between the Valley of Mai's breasts and took on his emotionless visage. However, if you were to look closely, you could see the stain of pink on his cheeks. Female interaction was not something he was good at. I'm here to report the success of the mission you assigned myself, and my partner Mizukage-sama, said Ryu as he was now standing at the same height as Mei. AW, straight to business, no fun in between. You have to learn to lighten up, Mr. Yokaze, said Mei as she bit her fingernail sexually. Although I could help in that department, said Mei as she whispered in Rya's ear. Naruto still kept that emotionless face, but held back a shudder at Mei's actions. Now that he fully looked at her, Naruto could say that Mei was one of the most beautiful kunoichi he's met, along with Conan and Tsunade, although he would never call Conan beautiful out loud. As entertaining as this is, Mizukage-sama, I believe such things should not be spoken outside private areas, said Ryu politely and yet showing no hint of emotion. Oh, what we're doing now would be far different than what we would do behind closed doors. Mr. Yokaze, said Mei slowly and softly. But her Mizukage position would come before her fun. Mei led Naruto to her office. So how was the success of your mission? Asked Mei in an authoritative voice. Conan and I were able to eliminate any Taki nin within the vicinity. There were 3 camps. Among their ranks I took one and Conan took another, where we later converged upon the last one where we also dealt with them and Conan should be returning with a hostage. How long will it be until your partner arrives with the hostage? Queried Mei. Unknown, but I believe it will be at least a day before she arrives, answered Naruto. Good, stated Mei. Good, questioned Naruto. Now presents us with a perfect opportunity to get to know each other on a much more personal level, spoke Mei in an enticing voice. How so? Asked Ryu carefully. After everyone had heard what you did in Konoha, especially to Kakashi Hatake, I was amazed that someone as young as you could be so strong, said Mei sultrily. I've wanted to meet you for some time, yet from all the rumors spoken about they never said you were this handsome. It pleasing to know that such an exquisite specimen of the female gender thinks of me in such a way, said Naruto neutrally. He didn't know how to react to the situation he was in. Living in a cave for years can do that to some people. Mei blushed at Ryu's words. She always liked it when men complimented her. Well, Ryu, maybe we should talk about our business with the Akatsuki and their contract over dinner at possibly my home, suggested Mei sweetly and huskily. Naruto raised his eyebrow at the woman. Naruto couldn't remember much of his interactions with women before his life as Madara student. All he could remember was a fist coming towards his face. Very well, when would you like to have dinner, Mizukage-sama? Replied Ryu with his face betraying no emotion. Please, call me Mei and tomorrow sounds good. I will give you the address later, said the Mizukage as she brushed her hand over Naruto's cheek while walking out of her office. Naruto craned his head to watch the busty cage leave as she added some sway in her hips, just for his entertainment. Interesting, I had heard that the Mizukage was beautiful and that she is a powerful kunoichi who's worthy of being a kage. Also add on to the fact she has 2 Keki Genkai, quite the opportunity indeed. Who knows how long the capturing of the Bijus will take, so it's always good to create contingency plans. Quite the opportunity indeed, thought Ryu viscously while creating future plans. A few hours later Conan had returned with a Taki nin smothered in papers only, showing his nose so that he could breathe. The Kiri shinobi brought him to one of their interrogation rooms ready to be interrogated. The room had various tools used for torture, and there were various old blood stains on the walls and floors. In the room was tinted glass where people could observe the interrogation. Behind the glass was Mei, Conan and Ryu. For hours they had been watching Ao beat the Taki nin until he told them who and why they hired them. But it was ineffective, so Ao gave up. Nothing I have done has tried Mizukage-sama. He won't talk, well, at least not under my strategies, said Ao as he joined the 3 others in the room. Mei bit her finger lightly, trying to figure out something. Perhaps you should let me handle the interrogation from here, Mizukage-sama, suggested Ryu. Mei was surprised at the suggestion from Ryu, so was Conan and Ao. Can you really help, Ryu-kun? Said Mei. Both Ao and Conan caught on to kun. It will go down in history as the shortest interrogation ever, said Naruto confidently. He walked into the room housing the prisoner and sat down in a chair, opposite the shinobi with a table between them. Who are you? Spat the tied-up nin. I'm Ryu Yokaze, said Naruto. The ninja looked at him quizzically. But Naruto caught on to his confused face. You asked me who I was, stated Yokaze. The ninja looked at him for a few more seconds before he chuckled a little. Well, at least you're not using some corny, your worst nightmare line on like that other guy with the eye patch. Please, I'm far above any cliché, said Ryu. As Ryu inspected the shinobi in front of him, devising the best possible to torture him. The nin had greasy black hair, pale skin and brown eyes. Just average in appearance. On the other side of the glass, Conan, Ao and Mei were watching the whole spectacle. Ao was taking notes on how Ryu handled the situation. He had to admit it. Yokaze was cool. Conan was looking at her partner with calculating eyes, wondering what he would do next. But Mei was apprehensive. Her thoughts were bordering on what Ryu was doing. On other side, Naruto's Sharingan were boring into the nin's head. But the shinobi wasn't intimidated by the crimson eyes. Come, what are you going to do that the other guy didn't? Quipped the Taki shinobi. Ryu combed his hand through his blonde locks and sighed. Do you know what pain is? Asked Naruto. The ninja didn't answer him but just stared at him confused. Pain can mean a lot of things, such as suffering or discomfort, brought about by illness or injury, or mental and emotional suffering of the mind caused by stress or great trauma that happens within one's mind and experiences of life. Conan just kept watching. But he was right, even today, she was still in pain of Yahako's death. And her partner was in pain too. Now I'm going to give you two choices about how I'm going to get the information from you, said Ryu. First option, my way, or second option, my way. The shinobi spat in Naruto's face just below his eye. I'm guessing you want to do it my way, stated Naruto as he wiped the saliva off his cheek with his cloak sleeve. Naruto channeled chakra to his left eye and his eternal Mangekyo pattern appeared. The scythe-like shuriken and the red pinwheel around the pupil appeared, and Naruto whispered, Tsukayami. The Taki Nin then found himself trapped within a strange world. The entire landscape changed. There was a red moon, shining red light over the world, there were black clouds that dotted the red sky, and there were no mountains or trees. Welcome to the world of Tsukayami, said Ryu as he materialized from nowhere. Here you could call me a god, for I control everything within this reality. Then chains burst from the ground and coiled around the nin, restricting his movements. For 3 days I will torture you here without pausing or stopping. The pain will only end when you are willing to give me the information, said Ryu. Then what appeared to be embers formed on the nin's body. Then the embers became flames. The shinobi started screaming out in pain. For hours he screamed while the flames seared his flesh. Naruto just watched. This was one of the training methods Madara used against him if he was ever captured and tortured, and it was hell on the first lesson. 2 hours later, within the illusion, did the shinobi finally say something. I'm not telling you anything, gasped the Taki Nin. Naruto sighed. He wasn't sure if it was amazing willpower or stupidity, so he decided to kick things up a notch. The nin, while on fire, then started vomiting water. Right now your lungs are being filled with ice-cold water, said Naruto. Let me tell you an interesting fact about the lungs. If ice-cold water were to reach the inside of your lungs, then it will burn more than fire. The nin was desperately trying to scream, but instead he was choking on water, but he wasn't dying. You just have to nod your head and tell me the information and all this will stop. You have 2 days and 17 hours to go, said Naruto as he kept watching the nin. 3 hours passed and Naruto was getting impatient in a world where he controls time. The nin had yet to break. The blonde assumed that he must have been a high-ranking jonin within his village, as that was the only explanation. You forced this on yourself, said Naruto. The chains that holding the shinobi grew hooks on their links. And like a factory line, the chain started moving in an orderly fashion. The hooks that were on the links started stripping the skin of the shinobi, exposing his muscle, where the flames that were burning him caused even more pain. Pain was all the ninja could feel. He couldn't scream at all. The pain that he was feeling because of the water he was choking on and the burning in his lungs was forcing all the oxygen from his body. He couldn't take it anymore. He had to make the pain stop. Through determination, the shinobi nodded his head to Naruto and he found himself back in the real world. He was sweating. He could feel no more agony. And he screamed while tears flew from his eyes at the feeling of it all. He hadn't felt anything so horrifying before. Eventually he stopped screaming, and the tears that fell from his eyes were wetting the table. We, Taki Nin, were hired by the Sandaime Tsuchikage to smuggle weapons and other items into the land of water, and prepare to take some of its land and set up a base. The Sandaime sent a nin as assurance, and we only had a few skirmishes with Kiri nin, said the shinobi tiredly. Ryu got out of the chair and left the room, and the Mizukage left with Ao and Konan. Well, Ao went back into the room and started beating the nin again. But Mei was impressed. Did the blonde Akatsuki member use genjutsu to make the nin talk, and if so, it was really effective since only a few seconds had passed, and he reduced the Taki shinobi into a weeping mess. Naruto was walking along the roads of Kirigakure, although he had the strange feeling that he was being followed. His suspicions were proven true when two slender arms wrapped around his neck. Thank you for your help with the interrogation, Ryu-kun, said a sultry voice which was familiar to Naruto. He turned his head and he saw the smiling face of Mei hugging him from behind. A thought quickly came to mind. Mei-chan, I need access to your files on the Yondai Mizukage, said Ryu. Mei was taken back by what Naruto said and she released him from her grasp. Whatever do you need them for? Asked Mei wearily. I'm hunting the person that was controlling the Yondaime. Deadpanned Naruto. Why? Asked Mei. Their hunter Nin were not able to capture the man, so how could Ryu? He murdered my mother, said Ryu neutrally. Mei gasped at what he said. Naruto didn't mention his father because he had no love for the man. Very well, the reports are near my office and on the same level. Not many people guard the reports, so you can enter if you want, said Mei sadly. Naruto nodded and made his way back to the Mizukage Tower. Mei was staring at his retreating form, his Akatsuki cloak moving with the wind. Naruto made it to the report room and closed the door behind him. There was only one light and it was dimly lit. There was dust everywhere. He laid his eyes on. The feeling of emptiness the room gave off was chilling. He would have continued on into the room further if it wasn't for the swirling distortion that appeared behind him. What he saw first was an orange mask with a single eye hole, black spiky hair and a Akatsuki cloak. Why hello, greeted the stranger. Naruto's eyes didn't betray any emotion, he just simply stared at the newcomer as if he was a nuisance. Hi, said Ryu. It's nice to finally meet you, Ryu Yokais. You made quite the reputation when you butchered all those Leaf Nins and Kakashi during the infiltration of Konoha. That was quite impressive. But wait, let me introduce myself. I am Madara Uchiha, said the now identified Madara. Naruto smirked his deathly smirk and his eyes widened in surprise. From just observing the space distortion, he was able to deduce that it was an advanced space-time teleportation ninjutsu. Madara Uchiha, repeated Naruto with a happy sigh. I take it you've heard of me, said Madara happily. Yes, I have heard of you. I also met you just recently, said Ryu with his now annoying smirk. Madara narrowed his lone eye at Naruto. What do you mean, met me? Threatened/questioned Madara. No, I've never met you. I've met Madara, not you, so you can drop the charade now. Obito Uchiha, spoke Naruto. The masked man, now known as Obito, scowled. How do you know that name? Snarled Obito, who had a scowl on his features behind his mask. Does it matter? Queried Naruto. I guess not, said Obito as he took off his mask. Naruto now saw the Uchiha survivor's face. It was horrendously scarred on the right side while it was perfectly fine on the left, and he had 2 Sharingan. I can only assume you got that left Sharingan in your eye after the events of the Uchiha massacre, said Ryu. You're quite astute, complimented Obito. Yes, I was involved with the Uchiha massacre. Can you believe that Itachi alone can wipe out the entire Uchiha police force in a single night? Then you are the accomplice Itachi was with that night, spoke Ryu. He had some questions regarding Obito that needed answering. Quite right, Itachi came to me that night asking for my help in wiping out the clan. But enough about the Uchiha, I can only assume you have questions, said Obito as he scrutinized Ryu. Why, yes, I do have questions, and you being here saves me all the time and trouble of trying to find you, said Naruto. How did you escape all the rocks that crushed your body during your mission to destroy Canopy Bridge? When I was crushed, I was blind. A boulder obscured my right field of vision, and I gave my left eye away to Kakashi, yet I was able to feel the small glimmer of light on my cheek through a crack in the boulders. With a new resolve, I attempted to crawl through the dark and step into the light. I was able to move my body well enough in the cramped spaces to reach my kunai holster on my right leg, which was also nearly crushed, and cut off the remaining arm that was pinned to the boulder, and I was able to wrench myself free from the boulder, and I climbed up with the rocks as my platforms, and with only one arm and a kunai. Although it took my days to get out and only the few droplets of water that cascaded down the rocks, was I able to survive. But how did you get your right arm back? Questioned Naruto with narrowed eyes. When I was free from the boulders, I saw a strange pale man with yellow eyes and green hair walking around. I killed him with the kunai in my hand, believing him to be an enemy. However, instead of blood I saw nothing. It wasn't bleeding. So an idea came to my head. I used my basic knowledge of medical ninjutsu, ninja wire and a senbon needle. Did I cut off the man's arm and sew it onto my own, where it later melded with my body. It seems luck favors you, stated Naruto. Indeed. Why did you never return to Konohagakure? Although I assume why, I want to hear it from you. Obito remained silent and he narrowed his eyes a little. Does it involve Rin Nohara? Obito scowled but made no move towards Ryu. Obito didn't know much of his abilities, so it was best to back down for now. I was returning to Konoha after I had gotten used to my new arm. However, I was able to hear yelling, and even though I'm not a sensor, I could sense numerous chakra signatures chasing 2 others. So I followed the chakra and I was able to see through my left eye, which was in Kakashi's eye socket at the time. I saw him stab his signature jutsu, the Kitari, through Rin's chest where her heart was supposed to be. Spat Obito. Naruto looked down at the ground as if contemplating something. The Kitari, huh? Breathed Naruto. The blonde then began to remove his Akatsuki cloak and dropped it to the floor. Obito tensed, slightly expecting an attack, but then Naruto removed his edge-tattered coat, then went his arms, armor, and finally his chest. I know what it feels like. Obito then saw a large scar that looked like a lightning bolt, hit Rya's chest and arced outwards where his heart was supposed to be. To be hit by that jutsu. That scar, said Obito as he inspected it. Did Kakashi try to kill you too? Questioned Obito. No, this was done by another, said Ryu. Sasuke Uchiha. Quickly putting the pieces of the puzzle together, Obito. You're Naruto Uzumaki. I should give you a prize for figuring it out so quickly, said Naruto as he placed his armor back on his body. I thought you died, stated Obito. Well, Uzumaki are like cockroaches, you just can't seem to kill us, replied Naruto. I'll remember that, said Obito. I also know about that Kiri mission involving Rin and the Sanbi, stated Naruto, which made Obito widen his eyes in surprise. Now there are two possible reasons why Kakashi killed her. One is that he killed her to eliminate the beast inside of her, dispersing its chakra around the world. Or two, you made Kakashi promise to protect Rin and he would never kill her, so she jumped in the way of his Kitari, so to kill the beast anyway. To be truthful, I find the second option more believable. And you have the ancient power of the Shadaime Hokage that you attained from the DNA of the white Zetsu you killed. Both men locked eyes with each other before Naruto voiced something on his mind. Why did you control the Yondai Mizukage Yagura? Kiri was responsible for Rin's death. Despite that, it was Kakashi that made the final blow. It was still their plan in the first place, so I decided to weaken Kiri by manipulating Yagura to sway the beliefs of the village against those with bloodlines, since I couldn't just kill the ordinary shinobi. And when Fugyuki Suikazan was killed, I approached Kasami myself and told him about my plan. However, when the rebels finally killed Yagura, he killed many officials and among other things and fled, where he later joined the Akatsuki, explained Obito. And I can only believe that you used your Madara persona to deceive Nagato. And by the way, how did you meet Nagato? Pressed Naruto. I was traveling within the land of rain and I saw Nagato's Rinnegan from a distance. Of course, I had researched Dojutsu during my travels as Madara, but when I saw the ripples I used my mask to fool him into believing that I was who I said I was, spoke Obito. But why Madara Uchiha in the first place? As a young boy growing up in the Uchiha clan was difficult. My parents instilled into my mind that only an Uchiha can defeat an Uchiha, and I tried to be greater than I was, but no matter how hard I worked, I was always the loser, and Kakashi was the prodigy, and my weakness caused the Uchiha clan to shun me even more. One point in my life my father said to me that, because of you, the clan is weaker than what it's supposed to be, and then I read about Madara and his treatment of the clan. He was the head and the most powerful among them, yet he was treated like an outcast even with his godlike power. I started admiring him and compared his position to mine, that no matter how high you can reach within the clan, they would betray you in the end. Touching story. However, what are you going to do now? Asked Naruto, narrowing his eyes. Well, I did come here to recruit you to my cause, said Obito with a grin. Cause? Then Naruto started laughing, which in turn caused Obito to scowl. Please, I know what your cause is. You plan on sealing the Biju within the statue to create a weapon, correct? Yes, answered Obito, who was still scowling. Naruto didn't say anything, but he stopped laughing, replaced with his annoying smirk. I'm not going to join you, stated Naruto. Instead, I'm going to stop you and replace your plan with mine. Obito was still scowling while Naruto was still smirking. So what do you plan on doing to me? Killing would be your most popular answer, and you can't do it here. It's not the right place, said Obito as he crossed his arms. Naruto's face fell back into its usual neutral expression. Kill you? No. I'm going to make you my personal toy where I will torture again and again. Oh, but not physical torture. No, I'm talking about the torture that you can't heal from, the mental kind, and when I'm done with you, you'll be nothing more than a broken plaything, discarded and forgotten, and then you will be begging me to die, and the world will remember you as nothing more than a puddle of blood on the ground beneath my heel, said Naruto scornfully. 6 months from now, south of the Fire Temple in the Land of Fire, there is a valley large enough to wage a shinobi war. There we will meet again and face each other in battle, for you threaten my plan and I threaten yours. Very well, there only one will reign as the victor. I will create a weapon that will bring hatred to this world. Proclaimed Obito. There is no such thing as peace in this world, only pain, war and hatred. I will create a world that there is no hatred and war, where there is no winners or losers, where there is no darkness, only light, the perfect world. Exclaimed Naruto. In 6 months train and become stronger, and when your eyes are ready come and face me. Said Naruto. Obito disappeared via Kamui and Naruto stood there grinning. And know that it was the student that struck down the fake. End of chapter 5.